Hello viewers, yes, this is Ranjana ma'am and you are watching your channel. You must be getting fed up with it, na? So I'm trying to bring a little change. So anyway, how are you? Hope you are doing fine, but many of you must be having exams knocking at your door, so I'm getting quite a few requests that ma'am, we have our exam on such and such date, please. So I'm trying my best. You know, even my coaching students, they are also having an exam, so I'm quite busy. But I'm always trying to find some time to keep to your request. So today again it's ICSC and the chapter is Hearts and Hands. And who's the author? O.Henry. O.Henry is not his original name. This is a pseudonym. That means he's writing under some other name. His original name is William Sidney Porter. He's an American writer. And what is his speciality? It's the sting in the tail. That means the end is very unexpected. So I don't know whether you read any other of his stories, but Gift of the Magi, The Last Leaf, they are also very famous. They had been in the ICSE syllabus, earlier syllabus. And this one, yes, this one is in the current ICSE syllabus. So I always say that we will read the box, yes, but before we proceed, you know what is coming. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe, share with your friends, give me as much like as possible, and watch the video till the end. Yes, I think I have repeated it countless times, so this time also it's not an exception. But after that, without wasting any more time, let's start because you have your exams and your preparations to make. So, O.Henry, this is the box, and I'm always reading the box portion, the second part of the box. His story, Hearts and Hands, describes the chance encounter, that means meeting by chance, on a train between two acquaintances. So they are very important characters. In all, there are three major characters. Miss Fairchild and Mr. Easton, they are the most important, but along with it there is a marshal. The situation turns awkward when Miss Fairchild notices that Easton is handcuffed to a grim-looking man. The man intervenes, means he comes in the middle to save Easton from embarrassment and prevent the girl from discovering the truth about him. It is only through the observations of their fellow passengers that the reader is made aware of the real nature of the relationship between the two men handcuffed to each other. So this is ironical. And only in the end do we come to know who is what. Hearts and Hands. At Denver, there was an influx of passengers into the coaches on the eastbound B and M Express. So this is a train, and where is it going? On the eastbound. It is heading towards the east. And at Denver, what happened? Quite a number of passengers entered the coaches. In one coach, there sat a very pretty young woman dressed in elegant taste and surrounded by all the luxurious comforts of an experienced traveler. So looking at her, you could get an idea that she was accustomed to traveling, experienced person. Among the newcomers were two young men. So these lines are important. One of handsome presence, quite handsome person, with a bold, frank countenance. Countenance means face. So what did this young man have? A handsome presence, bold, frank face and manner. And the other, the second person, a ruffled, glum-faced person, serious or sad-looking person, heavily built and roughly dressed. What a contrast. Both of them are as if a contrast to each other. One is handsome, he is so good-looking, and the other roughly dressed, sad-faced person. The two were handcuffed together. That means made one right hand of one and the left hand of the other, both of them handcuffed. So one of them is the criminal and the other is the officer taking him to the prison. As they passed down the aisle of the coach, the only vacant seat offered was a reversed one facing the attractive young woman. So suppose the young woman is sitting here. They had no other place to sit. The only two empty seats were opposite her. So they had to go and sit there. Here the linked couple means the two people handcuffed together are being talked as the linked couples seated themselves. The young woman's glance fell upon them with a distant, swift disinterest. Look, casually when people come and sit in front of you, we look, give a disinterested look and then we don't bother. So she first gave that glance, but see what happened. And then with a lovely smile brightening her countenance and the tender pink tinging her rounded cheeks, a little bit of pink color comes to her cheeks, most probably a little bit of blushing. She held out a grey gloved little hand. So her hands, she was wearing a grey colored glove. So she puts out her hand for a handshake. When she spoke, her voice, full, sweet, and deliberate, proclaimed that its owner was accustomed to speak and be heard. So she knows that people will listen to me. So she has a very great confidence in her that when I speak, people will listen. Well, Mr. Easton, if you will make me speak first, I suppose I must. Don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? So this is what she's telling. So we come to know that one of them is Mr. Easton. So of the two passengers who had boarded the train, one of them was an old acquaintance of this lady. So she's telling him that if you want that I should speak first, well, I should. Why? Because none of the passengers spoke to her. Mr. Easton did not speak to her. You know which one is Mr. Easton, the handsome fellow. So don't you ever recognize old friends when you meet them in the West? The younger man roused himself sharply at the sound of her voice. So most probably even the younger man had not noticed her. But hearing her voice, he suddenly rouses himself, seemed to struggle with a slight embarrassment. Initially, he feels a bit embarrassed, a bit awkward, which he threw off instantly and then clasped her fingers with his left hand. Normally, we put our right hand for a shake hand, but since he is handcuffed to the other fellow, so he offers his left hand. And what does he say? It's Miss Fairchild. So, yes, he identifies her. He said with a smile, I'll ask you to excuse the other. It's otherwise engaged just at present. So I'm sorry for offering you my left hand. You see, my right hand is engaged at this moment. So Miss Fairchild had not noticed the handcuff. Now she sees it and just see her reaction. He slightly raised his right hand, bound at the wrist by the shining bracelet. The shining bracelet, you can call it ironical because actually it's not a bracelet, it's a handcuff. To the left one of his companion. The glad look in his girl's eyes slowly changed to a bewildered horror. Oh my God, he has been handcuffed. So naturally, handcuff means you're a prisoner. Oh God. The glow faded from her cheeks. Her lips parted in a vague, relaxing distress. Easton, with a little laugh as if amused, when Easton, after watching her reaction, when she sees him handcuffed, he seems quite amused, was about to speak again when the other forestalled him. Other means the other passenger who had been handcuffed to him. He stops him and he speaks. The glum-faced man had been watching the girl's countenance with veiled glances. So he was not looking at her directly. He was giving her side glances from his keen, shrewd eyes. So what does he say? You will excuse me for speaking, miss. So he's telling, my lady, I hope you will excuse me because I'm interrupting in the middle. But I see you are acquainted with the marshal here. So, but it seems that you know the marshal here. That means this rough-looking, glum-faced man is calling Mr. Easton the marshal. Marshal is an officer in charge of law and order, like we have the sheriff and all that. If you will ask him to speak a word for me when we get to the pen, he'll do it. And it will make things easier for me there. So she's telling, it seems you know him, so why don't you tell him to speak on behalf of me? we are going to the prison. So in the prison, at least things will become better for me if he speaks on my behalf. And if you tell him to do so, it will be very good for me. He is taking me to Leavenworth prison. It's 7 years for counterfeiting. So the glum-faced man tells that he is going to Leavenworth prison for 7 years. 7 years. Why? On charges of counterfeiting. That means forgery. He must have done something illegal. Oh, said the girl with a deep breath and returning color. So now she feels assured. Oh, so he's not the criminal. This fellow is the criminal and he's the officer, he's the marshal. He's taking this man. So relaxed. So that is what you are doing out here, a marshal. Oh my God, so you're a marshal here. My dear Miss Fairchild, said Easton calmly, I had to do something. Money has a way of taking wings onto itself, so money flies out very fast. And you know it takes money to keep step with a crowd in Washington. And in order to be in the same level with the people in Washington, you need money. So I saw this opening in the West, and well, a marshalship isn't quite as high a position as that of an ambassador. But yeah, so marshal is nowhere in comparison to the post of an ambassador. An ambassador, he represents the country, so that is quite a high post. But in that comparison, marshalship is nothing. Why is he saying this? Because when he knew Miss Fairchild in his earlier days, there was an ambassador in whom Miss Fairchild had shown interest. And that is why he's telling, well, I am doing the post of a marshal, but it isn't so high as an ambassador. Now, so what does Miss Fairchild say? The ambassador, said the girl warmly, doesn't call anymore. So the ambassador doesn't visit me anymore. He needn't ever have done. So that means as if she has lost interest in the ambassador. So ambassador also must have been one of her suitors, but he doesn't call anymore. And that time she must have shown more interest in the ambassador and not in this man Fairchild, in this man Mr. Easton. And now that he is a marshal, that means when that man has stopped coming, the ambassador, when she sees Mr. Easton, she feels, oh, he's a marshal. You ought to know that, and so now you are one of those dashing Western heroes, and you ride and shoot and go into all kinds of dangers. Oh, now the post of marshal has appealed to her. After forgetting the ambassador because he doesn't call, now she shows a keen interest in this marshal, young marshal, Mr. Easton. So she's asking him, oh, like those Western heroes, you must be riding and shooting and getting yourself into all kinds of dangers. That's different from the Washington life. You have been missed from the old crowd, yeah. Those acquaintances, we are missing you. The girl's eyes, fascinated, went back, widening a little to rest upon the glittering handcuff. So she again, her gaze turns to the handcuffs. So she feels, oh, this marshal is taking this man to Leavenworth prison. Don't you worry about them, miss, said the other man. So who's telling? The glum-faced man. All marshals handcuff themselves to their prisoners to keep them from getting away. Oh, why are you bothering about this? Actually, we are handcuffed because the marshal has to handcuff the prisoner so that the prisoner doesn't run away. Mr. Easton knows his business. This is an irony. Well, will we see you again soon in Washington? Asked the girl. So are you going back to Washington? Not soon, I think, said Easton. My butterfly days are over, I fear. So no, I don't think I'll be going to Washington in near future. My days of roaming about aimlessly or flitting about from one place to the other, they are over. This is also ironical. If you have read the story, you will know why I am saying this. And if you haven't read, I am sure you have read it, so you know what is coming. I love the West, said the girl irrelevantly. Actually, she is trying to impress Mr. Easton and trying to show that she is interested in him. Her eyes were shining softly. She looked away out the car window. She began to speak truly and simply without the gloss of style and manner. So no artificial behavior. as if the words are coming from her heart. Mama and I spent the summer in Denver. She went home a week ago because father was slightly ill. I could live and be happy in the West. This is an indirect proposal. West, I can live here happily. What does she mean? That if Easton accepts her proposal, then she can get married to him and live here and she'll be happy. I think the air here agrees with me. Yeah, the air is as if conducive to my health. It suits me. Money isn't everything, but people always misunderstand things and remain stupid. So what does she mean by that? You don't need to be rich for happiness. But there are some people who misunderstand things, and this is indirectly a hint that Mr. Easton has misunderstood her and he's remaining stupid. He doesn't realize her feelings for him. Say, Mr. Marshall, growled the glum-faced man, this isn't quite fair. I'm needing a drink and haven't had a smoke all day. Haven't you talked long enough? Take me in the smoker now, won't you? I am half dead for a pipe. So now again interruption. The glum-faced man interrupts and says that I am really dying for a smoke. Is this fair? I need some smoke. Take me to the smoker room. Why does he say this? So that Mr. Easton does not get a scope to commit anything to this girl, to this lady. He's very clever, the glum-faced man. The bound travelers, that means Easton and the glum-faced man, rose to their feet, Easton with the same slow smile on his face. I can't deny a petition for tobacco. See, he's asking for tobacco and I can't refuse him. He said lightly, is the one friend of the unfortunate. For the unfortunate people, smoking is their only friend. Goodbye, Miss Fairchild. Duty calls you now. So, Miss Fairchild, let me bid you goodbye. Duty is calling me. So, I have to leave. He held out his hand for a farewell. It's too bad you are not going east, she said, reclothing herself with manner and style, because she realizes that Easton doesn't really take the hint she was offering. He is not saying anything about accepting her indirect proposal. He is so casual. His duty is calling and he is going away. So now she has again also come back to her poise and all that artificial behavior which she puts on. But you must go on to Leavenworth, I suppose. Yes, said Easton, I must go on to Leavenworth. The two men sidled down the aisle into the smoker. So they walked through the passage to the smoking room. The two passengers in a seat nearby. So in a nearby seat, there were two people sitting and watching the conversation going on, had heard most of the conversation. Said one of them, that Marshall's a good sort of chap. Some of these Western fellows are all right. Pretty young to hold an office like that, isn't he? Asked the other. Young? Exclaimed the first speaker. Why? Oh, didn't you catch on? Say, did you ever know an officer to handcuff a prisoner to his right hand? So now you know what? That Easton is the prisoner. That is why his right hand is handcuffed to the left hand of the marshal. So the glum-faced man is really the marshal, and Easton is the prisoner who is going to Leavenworth prison for 7 years. That is why he says, my butterfly days are over. Because he knows he'll be spending in prison for 7 years now. He can't go to the West, neither can he accept the proposal. That is why he just tries to be casual. But he's very clever and smart. And when the marshal saves him from embarrassment in the beginning by telling that he is the marshal, he plays the part very well. And this man is compassionate. The real marshal seems to be a sympathetic, compassionate person, and he doesn't want Easton may be a prisoner, but he doesn't want that this person should be embarrassed in front of an old acquaintance, and especially a lady. And besides, they won't be meeting again. Maybe 7 years he will be staying in jail. So why should he be embarrassed by this, made to feel embarrassed by this chance encounter? So what does he do? He makes himself appear as the prisoner and Easton as the marshal. So he gets such a lot of attention from this lady Fairchild. So much so that she's ready to propose to him. So this is how the story ends, and I told you that O.Henry stories, they have a sting in the tail. That means this is a speciality. That means the end is very different. Well, when you had read for the story for the first time, had you ever anticipated that this will be the end? No, honestly, I did not. But though I knew that something very different will come, but I had never thought that the real Marshal had deliberately exchanged the places and made himself appear as the prisoner and Easton. But Easton, with his handsome looks and everything, he appealed to us more as the Marshal. We never thought that this man, glum faced, roughly dressed, that he should be a Marshal of high position. So O.Henry's stories, I am very fond. I'm rather a fan of O.Henry. I'm very fond of his stories. So what are the things we should be noting while preparing for this chapter? See, for those of you who are in class 10, this is important. Why? Because it has not come in the boards. So there are more chances. I'm not saying it will come. Mark my words. Last time also it so happened. I always say that they may come. It is probability. So you have to pay attention to the theme, because you might get a question regarding the theme. So the theme is actually outward appearance can be deceptive. We thought by the outward appearance of Mr. Easton that he is the Marshal, but in reality he is the criminal who is being taken to Leavenworth prison for 7 years. And not only that, compassion. The Marshal, he is a man with a sympathetic heart. He feels compassion for the prisoner. So outwardly, he might look like a glum-faced, roughly dressed man, but inwardly, he is a very nice person. So we judge by appearance. And if we judge by appearance, we are deceived. As if the prisoner part suits him, and for Easton, as if the marshalship suits him. But it's just the opposite. In reality, he is the prisoner and the glum-faced man is the marshal. Achha. Then what are the things we have to notice? That there are a lot of irony in this. Like there are situational, verbal and dramatic irony. Situational is when in the beginning of the story, when the two men enter, just see their appearance. Appearance is very different. One is handsome, young, and all that, and the other glum faced, not well dressed. And verbal irony, like he is taking me to Leavenworth prison, it's 7 years for counterfeit. Actually, not actually, it's the Marshal who is taking, the real Marshal. I mean, actually, it is the glum-faced man who's taking Mr. Easton, but he's telling just the opposite. One of them is taking the other, but not what the Marshal says. And not only that, Mr. Easton says that my butterfly days are over. So he actually means that since he's going to prison, he can't flit from one place to the other. But Miss Fairchild thinks otherwise. She thinks that since he's got a job full of responsibilities, he can't flit on and go to Washington and enjoy and party and all that. So he's buttered. So the meaning is very different from what it is said. And then the glum-faced man says, Mr. Easton knows his business. So Mr. Easton knows is not the business of being a marshal, but being that of a counterfeiter. But Miss Fairchild doesn't understand. She thinks that, oh, he knows his job as the marshal. And again, I can deny a petition for tobacco. So Easton means to say that he actually is the prisoner and he is at the command of the real marshal. So he cannot refuse to listen to him. But Miss Fairchild feels, oh, the prisoner is asking for some permission to smoke, asking to be taken to the smoking room, so he is taking. But it's just the other way. If the marshal wants to go and smoke, and he has to, Easton cannot do anything but to follow him. And dramatic irony, Miss Fairchild says, money isn't everything, but people always misunderstand things and remain stupid. So she says people misunderstand things, whereas she herself does not understand. And she cannot realize who the real prisoner is. So we can understand that he is the prisoner. So he is not a free man. That is why he cannot allow her to live and be happy. So though she says she wants to live and be happy in the West, Easton cannot do that because he himself has no control over his life. His life is in the control of the police, in the control of the prison authorities. Acha, there is personification. The air has been personified here. I think here the air agrees with me. Air is not a person to agree with someone. And then we have an example of hyperbole. Hyperbole, too, you have come across quite often. Exaggeration. So I am half dead for a pipe. Yeah, no one can die for a pipe or be half dead for a pipe. And what is very important, you have to note, I just said the sting in the tail. So O.Henry is best known for the surprise endings in his short stories. So the end comes as a surprise to the readers. So this young lady, Miss Fairchild, yes, she sees Mr. Easton first handcuffed, so she feels very awkward, the color gone from her face. But when she is assured by the glum-faced man that he is the marshal, then again the color comes back. And finally, when they leave, she up till now has not been able to understand that the real marshal is not Easton but the other man. But of the two prisoners, of the two passengers, one is a clever one. And one of them has been deceived. And he thinks, oh, the marshal at such a young age. But the other one, who speaks about the marshal being a good man and all that, he has understood that who is the real marshal, because he tells that marshal always handcuffs the right hand of the prisoner to his left hand. That means he has good knowledge. So I think there are no more problems. I have tried to be as lucid as possible. I've tried to make the chapter easy, and I'm sure you will have no other problems. You will be able to face them well. And what my suggestion is that always read from A to Z the story. I mean, don't try to leave. This is important, this is not nothing like this. ICSE is about studying everything. So you will study everything. There is no question of mugging up. Study the chapter so well that from wherever your questions are framed, you can handle it. And for that, you need countless reading. One reading won't do. Oh, you feel, I know the story. You know the story, but what about the subtleties? There are many, what should we say, important lines. Like if I ask you now all of a sudden, can you tell what was the characteristic of Easton and the glum-faced man? How can you compare them? So then you remember he is handsome. But what else? There are one or two more points. And you know, for your points, you get marks. For every point that you give, you get marks. So you have to study it very thoroughly. And that is the mantra to get good marks. And I have got this, some of them have asked me how to write a proper answer. Yes, I will be doing it. Once I finish the syllabus, I will be telling you, giving you the guidelines how to write. What should be the length? You can't go on writing lengthy answers, you won't get marks. Okay, so I will do that. One or two papers I'll try to solve with you, but that will come at the end. First, let me finish the syllabus. Okay, so I think we are done for today. Have a happy time, and Ranjana ma'am takes leave. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Goodbye, students.